Hello everyone! Yes, you thought I retired this awful bit, but nope, I'm back. While I was affixing high domina to my units like the whale I am, I'm not actually a whale, I swear. I looked at my potency to see I have 294.6% potency now. I got to thinking that the gap between budget and best in slot is getting to be pretty insane. I mean, if you consider that players are still using full LC augs for the low range, then the mid-range is using a mixture of a natty LC and easier to obtain caps like Triol or maybe outdated best in slot caps. The gap's pretty big and only getting bigger. For example, someone only using the free Argenko gear is probably rocking around 150% potency. Yikes, that means BiS has over 100% more potency over them. I remember back when Solus first released last year, budget BiS had around 150%, while BiS had around 161%. It wasn't huge, but it was noticeable. Then stuff like Lux came out and we went to around 197% when Aegis released, then around 186% when Dalian released, and then stuff started to get really crazy after Dalian when we got to 200%. This was around the level 90 cap, if I recall. Best in slot has a massive gap in power over budget builds now. Of course, obviously there's very little reason to actually need this power unless you like soloing or speedrunning, and you can probably get by for modest 240% otherwise. But like I said, this gap is pretty big, and well, it probably doesn't concern the majority of players, but I at the very least think it's worth pointing out that there's a huge discrepancy in power right now. Now, obviously I'm not making this to complain about, but rather to shine a light on the bigger issue and how it can potentially be fixed, even if it'll likely do nothing. The biggest problem is that there isn't a mid-tier capsule. LC used to be this because before LC we were using a bunch of garbage tier 4 capsules. Then Sega started to introduce Lux, High, Grand, Gland, Giga, Grand. Why can't they all just be called Grand? Anyways, there's no middle. The tier 5 capsules and trio caps are really not a middle ground. They are pretty weak compared to the 4.525% potency best in slot augs have, or the catch-all utility of Grand Druid Keeper 2. The solution to this issue is very easy and requires new LC caps for all the current tier of best in slot affixes to fill the gap. That's basically all that needs to be done. I'm sure many people at low potency don't particularly care, as I said earlier, but maybe people would be more open to running stuff like Ilio Intruders, Ordinal Tower, or Ultra Hard Suppression targets if they didn't feel so underpowered, and I think that's a big thing right now to really keep in mind. It's anyone's guess really, and with Sega basically handing out Excelia weapons and Exorcist armor with the recent seasonal event, I feel it's a needed step they should take to improve the player experience overall. You can take this as the ramblings of a crazy person, but I think it's something to just keep in mind. The gap between budget and BiS was acceptable a year ago, but it's crazy now, and in a way that just makes gearing up for many kinda pointless beyond free handouts, since best in slot does ask quite a bit out of players, be it the materials and aug potentials or just a lot of your time in general. I mean, if you, or if anyone, remembers base PSO2, having like plus 60 to a single stat was the equivalent of 1% more potency. This meant that the difference between, I guess, Grack and like budget stuff, with like just using the normal best in slot affixes, which were kind of outdated, there wasn't a huge gap in power. It definitely made a difference, but there's definitely a much higher emphasis on gear in NGS than there ever was in base PSO2, and this is especially true right now in this current part of NGS's history, I guess. That's basically all I wanted to talk about. What do you guys think about the current BiS grind? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.